Click below to watch the original Sins video or to buy Doctor Strange. Also, I am currently stuck on iMovie. Yeah.
In 2016, audiences were delighted to see Inception 2 in theaters, which they weirdly called Doctor Strange.
This movie had bendy buildings. That movie had bendy buildings, and that's a sin.
Which they weirdly called Doctor Strange. I mean, strangely called Doctor Strange.
You know what you did.
Like Harry Potter, this movie will never stop to explain what the motions really do or whose motion should be outweighing whose.
First of all, this movie does explain a fuck ton of how the magic works. Can we maybe get a ding there? Thanks. And secondly, it doesn't explain literally everything about it because that would be boring and also wouldn't improve the movie at all. And also,
These hologram blades do hologram damage to the bad guys.
This magic looks too magic-y for my liking.
Yeah, you're right. In ER, we're only saving lives.
The movie not only utterly wastes Rachel McAdams, it uses her best acting on a medical walk and talk.
No, it really doesn't. And although her role isn't huge, it does require a lot of acting talent on her part.
I call it the Strange policy.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad something's named after me.
This movie schools Jurassic World on how to write we used to date sexual tension dialogue, while still being super cliche and predictable we used to date dialogue. Point is, both movies did it poorly, but Jurassic World did it even more poorly. I shouldn't have to explain this.
Yes, you should. It's literally your job. Also, starting out a criticism by saying something like, wow, that movie totally schooled that other movie at this thing is kind of weird, but alright.
God damn, I do fucking love the New York skyline. Is that the fucking Avengers Blue Jay building? Fucking hell.
I literally don't even know with this in. This is an MCU movie. It's gonna have... It's in the continuity of... Fuck it.
Listen, if you have a watch drawer, fuck you. If your watches inside said watch drawers are all spinning as though each is trying to get your attention to get you to pick them, you're vainer than whoever Carly Simon wrote You're So Vain About.
It's almost as if this movie is really good at characterization through simple things like set design and props.
Strange asks his physical therapist, sarcastically, if he's ever known anyone to have this much nerve damage yet still recover. And dude says yes, and tells him about Benjamin Bratt. And it's a fucking miracle and a half that the only dude to do this, because he went to the temple of whatever, somehow had the same physical therapist as Strange.
I admit that this is unlikely, but no one said that this was the only dude to do this. We even learn later in the film that a huge proportion of the sorcerers just went looking to be healed. By the way, I've forgotten the name of the place that Doctor Strange goes to learn magic. And I can't figure out what to Google to find out. So for the rest of this video, I'm just going to say magic place.
No one will be seated during the Doctor Strange wants to shave but decides not to shave scene.
Sure, if you say it like that, you can make it sound silly and inconsequential. But this scene is really great at characterization and really shows us where Doctor Strange is mentally.
I'm not getting any better!
But still, as sad as that is, you drove yourself off a cliff by driving like an asshole late at night in the mountains. I mean, exactly how much empathy is this movie expecting me to have with this entitled sourpuss?
Doctor Strange is a flawed character. You can empathize with him if you want, but that's just a different way of viewing the film. It's not the only way you could.
We are not friends, Christine. We were barely lovers.
Before turning this movie into a possible Inception sequel, it was briefly considered for a Season 4 episode of Grey's Anatomy.
This movie had, I don't know because I've not seen Grey's Anatomy, but I hear it's quite good. I might watch it one day. Although I'm probably going to watch Westworld first because I've heard really good things about that. I don't know much about it, but the robot shit looks really cool. What was I talking about?
Mr. Strange?
Doctor, actually.
Well, no, not anymore, surely. Isn't that why you're here?
Well, no, actually. He's probably still a doctor by degree and experience. It's just that his hands don't work anymore. I'm quite sure he came here to get his hands working again, not to become a doctor again, since that label surely never left.
Okay, I'm gonna do something a little different here and argue a point that I think can be taken either way. Jeremy has his interpretation of this scene, which I think is valid, but it does make this scene a sin. I'm gonna tell you my interpretation of what I think she was saying there, and you can just decide which one you prefer. She's calling him Mr. Strange because that's how he feels now. His sense of self-worth came from his abilities, and in his eyes, he just doesn't have those anymore. In his eyes, what she's saying is true, and he's the one she's saying it for, so she's right to say it.
Also, does this mystical kung fu school accept all comers? Because he got this place's name from a dude that actually rejected their philosophy and left, and he just showed up on their doorstep, and yet they took him in and deemed him worthy of training. Because why again? Did they just train anyone that shows up?
I mean, their ability to literally see into the future might have something to do with it.
I spent my last dollar getting here. One-way ticket, and you're talking to me about healing through belief.
Isn't that exactly what Pangborn told Strange before he made this trip? That getting his mind right is how he got his body to heal? Hell, let's replay that scene.
My mind was elevated, and my spirit deep, and somehow
Your body healed.
Hell, you weren't even skeptical. You filled in the blanks on your own.
He wasn't skeptical at that point because as far as he was concerned, he didn't need to be. All he's hearing is, I was healed, this is where I want to do it. All of the stuff about healing through belief, he's just ignoring because it doesn't fit with his worldview. This is perfectly within character for him as well. He saw a guy who supposedly couldn't be healed, had been healed. Assumed it was due to some advanced or experimental medical treatment, and didn't even acknowledge any suggestion to the contrary until he absolutely had to.
Oh, cool, a butterfly. But even in this astral dimension, how does the butterfly live in space? Or am I missing the point?
Everything shown in this scene is just being trippy for the sake of being trippy, but that butterfly must be real, even though everything else isn't. But seriously though, this is the astral plane. Nothing here is here physically.
Oh my I just realized how Marvel intends to keep its MCU properties going perpetually, using these Doctor Strange infinite universes, and that's bad. It opens the door to the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse.
And that's bad? Is your main justification for why this is bad? I mean, I personally would love to see some alternate universe Marvel films.
What's this, my mantra?
the Wi-Fi password.
That's funny. But why would you give him a card with a strange word on it and not tell him it's the Wi-Fi password as soon as you give it to him?
Give the man a chance to speak. Doctor Strange had the card for like half a second before he asked what it was.
Also, that password is super hackable.
What? Why?
The language of the mystic arts is as old as civilization.
That sentence literally means nothing.
Actually, it means that the mystic arts are really old.
How do I get from here to there?
How did you get to reattach severed nerves and...
Study and practice, years of it.
The Ancient One suggests it will take years of study and practice for Strange to master this art, but the movie will suggest he does it in mere months.
First of all, he doesn't master the art in those months. He gets really good at some stuff, but there's still a huge amount he doesn't know. And secondly, she never said years. He did.
Well, heroes like the Avengers protect the world from physical dangers.
Not a Marvel movie if we don't spend a lot of time talking about other Marvel movies.
In Jeremy's mind, a lot of time constitutes those 2 seconds right there where they mention the Avengers.
Wait a minute, is this movie saying she can't see the 2 astral projections fighting? So why could she clearly see Strange when he was helping her operate on it? This is known as playing fast and loose with the rules.
This is not known as playing fast and loose with the rules. This is known as having quite clear rules that Jeremy doesn't understand for some reason. When Doctor Strange is talking to Dr. What's-Her-Face, he's clearly making himself visible on purpose. This movie uses stuff that looks like shards of glass to visually indicate when someone is breaching a gap between dimensions, and you can see those around Doctor Strange. Basically, he's only visible when he needs to be because he's doing it on purpose.
During the entire time Strange was on the operating table and beating up a low-rent magic henchman, nobody walked into this closet and noticed a portal to another world.
No one walked into a closet for a little while. What? No way.
You defended the New York sanctum from attack.
Through sheer f***ing luck.
And also skill.
Their connection to the dark dimension makes them more powerful in the mirror dimension. They can't affect the real world, but they can still kill us.
Then why didn't Caecilius do this himself earlier? Unless you're telling me that he doesn't have the power to make a mirror dimension.
You don't make a mirror dimension, you go to the mirror dimension.
Look, I know it's the mirror dimension, which the movie has defined as basically literally anything goes, but he's folding the city supposedly. But the part top left he's folding in is actually the same exact mirror opposite of the city's scape that he's folding it into. Here, these are all the same buildings. He's somehow doubled the city upside down, and movie wants me to act like he bent Manhattan in half or some
So you're complaining because the mirror dimension has a mirror image in it. You literally used both of those terms yourself. Okay then.
Strange realizes his shaky hands are bad, and finally concedes to the inferior surgeon he hated earlier. This is supposed to show growth, but honestly, if his hands weren't shaking, he'd still have insisted on doing the surgery himself. He has not grown at all, really.
I mean, maybe you're right, and this scene specifically doesn't show that Strange has grown. But to say that Strange hasn't grown at all is pretty ridiculous.
You're on the wrong side of history, Wong.
Or maybe, dare I say it, the Wong side of history? I'll give myself 5 cents for that.
What? No! Stop it! That's my job. But also, you're right, that pun was worth 5 cents, so... But also, sinning yourself was kind of funny, so...
In case you confused it for... usually I have something to say on shots like this.
At first when I saw this, I was going to say something along the lines of, hey, it doesn't matter that the thing you're sinning isn't there, you're still going to sin it. But watching this again, I actually think this is kind of a fun little meta joke, so I'm going to give you a sin off. So, the sin total was 29. Unfortunately, I'm a little pushed for time making this video, so there's not going to be an end segment or a teaser today. There is going to be a quickie review though. Here's the transition card. for the thing I just said I was gonna do. Doctor Strange was great. It, along with a load of other recent Marvel movies, have made me really think that Marvel have just refined their formula recently, without making their movies too formulaic, which is a difficult line to tread. The movie's villains were pretty dull, in my opinion, but the villains weren't really what the movie was about. Except when What's-His-Face was calling Doctor Strange Mr. Doctor. That was funny shit, but apart from that, the villains were dull. The trippy shit that everyone's been praising this movie for was pretty cool, but for me it wasn't a highlight. The highlight for me, which you may have been able to tell from the Sins video, was Doctor Strange's character development. The supporting cast I could take or leave, but Doctor Strange himself was absolutely fantastic. The more recent solo Marvel movies like Ragnarok, Doctor Strange, Homecoming, and Guardians 2 have all been really, really good, which is why I think that now would be the perfect time for them to make a new Hulk solo movie. I just really want that. Along with other recent Marvel movies, Doctor Strange has achieved something really good. It manages to be a fun romp that really doesn't take itself too seriously, while simultaneously having you invested in the characters and the stakes. Well, I say characters. Character. The other characters were fine, I just wasn't that invested in them. But that's basically everything I have to say about Doctor Strange summed up. Before I go, I would just like to say a special thanks to my patrons. The Shawshank Inception. Zachary Christensen. Nick and Jacob Hanshu. All of the requests I've got on Patreon are in the works, by the way, but it might take a little while, so don't expect them until late April. I hope that's alright. So is the Q&A that I announced, 2 months ago. Also, CinemaSins Sins, Part 2. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you next time.